Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilters Heaven in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. Today's episode, number 60, is my favorite no serger binding technique. To all my new subscribers, my videos release every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. And due to popular demand, we now have playlists set up on my channel. So go back and check out all the old videos. Lots of good content there. Now, let's get to my opinion. Behind me, while they are similarly colored quilts, they weren't here for that. They are here to show you that you can take a pieced quilt top and make it better by adding pieces from some other project, leftovers, scraps, whatever you've got. This one was a mystery quilt. And let this be a warning to all you people who do mystery quilts. Sometimes you'll love them, and sometimes they're not going to be your favorites. And this one was done by Linda H., who works here. And this is the center of it. This whole portion here was the mystery quilt. This was not part of it. And when she finished this, she said, "This is just a snoozer." She just was not happy with it. And as she looked at it, she decided she wanted to jazz it up by adding a border. So while none of these fabrics are in this quilt, they blend beautifully with it. Brings in a few more colors. This blue just really pops it, really makes it a great quilt. So she went from snoozer to not being happy with it to a beautiful quilt. Another place that you can use leftovers from another project or scraps, I show here. And these scraps were added from the leftovers of this quilt. I've had this hanging behind me in other videos. So I had a whole bag of these leftover pieces. This author, this designer, has you buy way more fabric than you need. So I had tons of leftovers. So I finished this quilt, and this, of course, is the quilt top here. And I decided that it was too fat for how long it was. So I wanted to make it longer. So I took the scraps from the project that these aren't even in here. And I took leftover pieces, sewed them together, and there's another border up at the top. So I've now added 4 inches to top and bottom, and I think I'm now happy with the length. Now I am going to put another border all the way around, but I just want you to not say don't put on this border because none of those fabrics were in the body of the quilt. There's no quilt police. You can do whatever you want. I fixed my width to height ratio by adding scraps from a totally different project. So in my opinion, using your scraps to make a quilt better is always a good thing. Now, let's get to today's episode. I'm going to be showing you today the exact same technique I showed you last week on the serger, but we're going to use the domestic machine. Many of you have said you don't have a serger. So I'm going to show you how to do that. One quick correction, this Charlotte's fusible web from Superior, I said it had 200 yards on it. Boy, was I off. It's 115 yards on it. So it even goes a shorter distance than I thought last week. I did also find the thread in a big cone, and I'm very happy to have that because I'm planning on using this technique a lot. Also, many of you pointed out that Wonderfill has a fusible thread and Floriani has a fusible thread. So it's out there. You should be able to find it. But let's go over to the machine and show how to do it on the regular sewing machine. I have my machine set up for a zigzag stitch. I have it 6.6 wide. And the reason I'm at 6.6 is if you convert that millimeters to inches, 6.35 is a 1/4 inch. So I went just a hair wider than a 1/4 inch. and I have my length set at 1.7. And so you're going to do just exactly what we did on the serger, and just go ahead, and you've got the fusible thread in the bobbin, and I'm just going to sew all the way down, and then I would make a mark at a 1/4 inch like we did last week. Stop at your 1/4 inch, and then go ahead and turn to a 45-degree angle and sew off. And then you're going to fold up just like we would have done last week, and fold down and continue on. So you've got the fusible all here, and you'd go to the ironing board and go ahead and press that down, and either stitch in the ditch here, or if this is the front, remember we showed both sewing front and to the front and the back, whichever direction you like, but you just press it down and you've got beautiful binding. Now I found a stitch on the machine that I even liked better, and it's called the double overlock stitch. And what it's made for is to mimic a serger stitch. So I'm going to go to that real quick. On this machine, it's a stitch number 20. And I don't know if I mentioned, I have the 20 D foot on. Use whatever foot your machine has that lets you do the wide zigzag or the wide overlock stitch. Many brands of machines have mimicking serger stitches. So on the double overlock, again, I'm going to go to 6.6 wide. Again, that's to mimic the 1/4 inch. And I have it at 3 inches in length. Oops, didn't mean to do that. 3.0 in length. And then I'm just going to do the same thing. Now the one thing you're going to notice here is it goes back. So you can see it's going back and forth. So while this works great, you don't have the speed that you have on the serger. And that is one of the things I liked about this technique. But without a serger, this works great. You do the same thing, corner, get to the corner, flip it up, bring it down, and go just like you always do. Now we have the fusible thread all on this side, and go ahead and iron it down. And of course, I would come in and stitch here. If you remember, Carol liked to use the 38 foot, 35 foot, the piping foot, and sew just to the edge to hold it down. So whichever way you like to do it, this is a great binding technique, all by machine. If you're going to get your quilts done, you can't do it all by hand if you have as big a stack as I have. That's it for here at the machine. Let's show you some other things. I've just shown you how to do the binding technique without the serger, but I'd just like to point out a few other functions that the serger can do that you might not be aware of. One of the things we use the serger for all the time here is putting scraps of batting together to make a bigger piece, specifically for donation quilts. You just have to make sure you have the same batting, the same fiber content batting to do it. But it just runs through the serger super fast. I don't know if you can see it. It's a 2-thread flat lock. I should have used dark thread so you can see it, but we have the machine set up with white thread so that you can't see it. But it's super fast. It's faster and easier than a zigzag stitch on the domestic machine. We use it all the time. Another spot for the serger that I like to use it for is for finishing the seams inside a bag. This is all serged here. This is all a serged edge right here. And you don't have to bind it. Many patterns you'll see will say bind these edges. it's just too hard, too much work. Super easy on the serger. Another use for it, and again, we do this for donation quilts. Quilt as you go technique with the serger. This is all serged inside here, and it's all serged together so that when you finally add all your strips on, this is the next edge that needs to be serged, and after it folds over like this. And the best part of this technique is, once the quilt top is pieced, it's also quilted, so you don't have to go back to quilt it. So you can piece it all on the serger, and then add the binding all on the serger, except for that last little go around on the domestic machine. You can make up a donation quilt so fast, or even if it's not a donation quilt, what if you just found out that the baby shower is tomorrow and you've got to get one done real quick. So there's lots of uses for sergers. So I want to show you that if you want one, they're attainable. Some people say, I can't afford one, I won't use it. Well, I've already showed you how many uses you can have, but let me show you that they can be super affordable. How people choose to spend their quilting money is a deeply personal decision, and I understand that. Some people have space constraints. My daughters live in tiny, tiny studio apartments in the city. If they could even make space for a sewing machine, they certainly would never be able to add a second machine. This is for people who have the space and really want to have a serger but don't know how to get there. I went on eBay and I found several, some new, some refurbished or pre-owned, and it could be Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, any place where there's commerce going on. And I found a Brother machine for $189 and one for $215 new. Mylock, I don't know that brand at all, but there was one for $199.99. There was a Brother refurbished, a Brother pre-owned, and another Baby Lock, and a Brother, I don't know, $45. I don't know how great that machine could possibly be, but maybe it is. But they are out there. If you want to dip your toes in and you don't want to say, I'm going to spend $8,000 on the brand new Bernina top-of-the-line machine, you can dip your toes in on something less expensive and see if you like it and see if you use it. If you don't use it, then you know you don't want to go on. If you're using it all the time and saying, gee, I wish it would do more, then it might be time for you to move up. Also, some people don't like to get machines on these kind of marketplaces because they don't get the dealer support that you would get if you buy from a dealer. There are also economical ways to get machines from a dealer. Let me switch out the whiteboard. All Bernina sergers are not $8,000. There are the Burnett's, little lower end, but they still work great. The Burnett's, the 44 is $7.99, the 48 is $11.99, and the airlock, meaning it's air threaded, the loopers thread themselves pretty much, is $17.35. In the Berninas, the 450, and that's the one I used to serge those batting pieces together, is $14.99, and the 460, the next one up, is $18.99. Now, Bernina offers, from time to time, 0% financing based on how much you spend. And coming up in June, they have a 0% financing offer, 48 months, and you have to spend $2,000, and 60 months you have to spend $4,000. And I'm going to have a link in the description box for you to go to apply. You can apply online, have an account number, go to your Bernina dealer, and say, I've been approved for $4,000 or whatever it is you're approved for. And if we look at the higher end ones, there's an 860 in between the 850 and the 890. The 850 is $37.49. So if you take that over 60 months, that's $78 a month plus tax. So it'd be a little bit more than that if you finance the tax. The 890 is just under 8,000, and if you spread that over the 60 months, it's 133 plus tax. It'd be more if you finance the tax. But you can finance the tax. So let's go to the example of the 460. We said the 460 was $18.99. That doesn't reach the 2,000. But in Illinois, we have 10% sales tax. So once you add the sales tax to this, you are over $2,000. So if you spread that out over the 48 months, you get to $43.52 a month. So where can that money possibly come from in your quilting budget to pay the $43 a month? There's lots of places to save. I say over and over again, don't buy a tool or ruler that you already have just because it has some different lines on it. Also, you can use construction techniques that have less waste, hence you buy less fabric. I'm going to have a link to a video of a woman who put out a video of the 14 things that I'm not going to buy again. And it's really kind of funny of the things she was spending her quilting dollar on. But like I said, it's a personal decision. She wanted to buy them before she bought them. Now she's saying, I'm not going to buy them anymore. In this example, this woman would have the $43 a month by not spending the money on the things she said she's not going to, that she'd be able to buy the 460. So if you want to add a serger, I think you'd be very, very happy. Quilters do use sergers, as do garment sewers. So you might even branch into garment sewing as well. That's my episode today. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, happy sewing.